So it's so nice for the parents to be able to see like the spectrum of life. And at the same time, it's just really nice for us parents to be able to connect and say like, hey, my son is struggling with this. What has helped?
Welcome to the Precision Podcast, where we inspire and encourage pediatric professionals like you. I'm your host, Holly Perrett, pediatric occupational therapist and the founder of Precision CPD, your go-to platform for accredited and accessible professional development. Each episode will dive into practical tips, expert insights, and uplifting stories to help you make a lasting impact in your work with children. Whether you're an OT, PT, or SLP, we're here to support your growth and success. Let's keep learning, growing, and making a difference together. I think we can all relate to this feeling of when we serve a child, just really understanding that there's so much potential in actually serving the whole family as well. And that is exactly what we're going to be hearing about today with our interview with Colleen Dallmeyer. Colleen is a physical therapist with 15 years of experience. She is also a mom who found out at birth that one of her sons has trisomy 21, otherwise known as Down syndrome. Colleen runs an initiative called Family Friday, which is a local playgroup that runs once a month for families who have a child that is between the ages of 0 to 12 with Down syndrome or any other developmental disability and autism. This incredible initiative not only gives families the time and space to connect and play and break bread together, but also hosts various professionals to provide educational training for families on the things that they need support in, like toilet learning, setting up special needs trusts, building independence, and so much more. Colleen was chosen as a finalist for the 2024 Play Promoter Prize because of her dedication in serving this community and the amazing way that she promotes play outside of a traditional clinic setting. Let's hear from Colleen and how she does that. So Colleen, I'm thrilled to have you with us today and to be talking about Family Friday. Before we really get into what the project looks like now, do you want to tell our audience a little bit more about yourself and also about how this idea came about, how it all got started? I know you have a really compelling story behind this project.
So my name is Colleen. I am a school physical therapist. I've been a physical therapist for the past 15 years. I live in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. I have a husband and 3 small kids. I have twins who are 8, and my youngest is 5, and she's very excited to start kindergarten. So what Family Friday is, it occurs one Friday a month. It's through an organization called Ups for Downs. It's a organization that's been around for 40 years, and it supports families who have a child who has Down syndrome, and they have all different sorts of activities they do for families. They have scholarships. They give scholarships to individuals with Down syndrome to continue their continuing education, and also for like family members who have a sibling who has Down syndrome, but they also have wonderful programming from birth to adulthood, just to kind of keep them busy. It's just truly a wonderful organization. It's all volunteer run. We raise all the money to help support these activities. So it's a really wonderful organization. So Family Friday started before I was even a part of the organization, but it kind of, because we are volunteer based, if there are no volunteers, then the activity doesn't happen. So I have twins, and my husband and I found out at birth that one of our son has Down syndrome. It was definitely a shock. Like, I was a planner. I read like all the books, did all the tests, like everything. And so when our son was born, it was like I was completely numb. Even though I'm in the field, like I work with kids who are different. It was a shock. And I think I had to grieve the idea of what I had in my mind of having twins and having one, in my mind, they were going to be typically developing and being able to do all these things. And, a curveball got thrown to us. So I really felt like I had to like grieve the idea of what I was expecting of being a first-time mom to twins. And so, the first few months was definitely a blur, just like any, new mom would be, but it was filled with like specialist appointments and other doctor's appointments and therapy appointments and all this, even though like I do it for a living, it was just surreal to me. And I didn't have anyone to talk to, and we stumbled upon this organization called Ups for Downs. And we went for the first time when my twins were like 6 months old. I will first walk in, and this, like, it was at a play place, and everyone's laughing and smiling, and, kids are playing and they're just being kids. No one was sad. No one was upset. And it really like was eye-opening to me. It's like, it was okay for me to grieve, but like, I need to move on. And like, this is my child.
It's just incredible to like just hear your story. And I can only imagine that feeling of walking into the center and having just this experience of like joy and community, and finding that space where you fit and you belong. And
so we would attend, and even though my kids were only 6 months old, it was so nice to be able to connect with other parents, see other children and how they interact with their siblings and things like that. And then, the person who was running it at the time, you get busy, life gets busy, like other kids have other activities, and the programming kind of just stopped. And I really missed it. And especially with COVID and everything like that. So, talking to my husband, I'm like, we could do this. It's just like once a month, we can make this time commitment, because other families were missing it too. The hard part was trying to find a location, because the previous location, due to whatever reasons, is no longer a place. So that was like the really hard part, was trying to find an accepting and inclusion place that would allow us to have this, that wouldn't charge us an arm and a leg, because we're a volunteer organization. And it just happened. We are YMCA members, and I just brought the idea to them, and they were like, of course, whatever we can do to support you. This is all what the YMCA stands for, is inclusion, because there were many play places that were not accepting of having, 20 kids with Down syndrome there. They have this idea in their heads that, they're instructors and all these other things, but the YMCA was so friendly. And so once I found the place, when we got like the food and stuff, I just started putting it out on social media. And, the first few groups, there were like, it started off maybe just like a handful of families. And now this is going, we're pretty strong. We have at least, I think the most people we've had is like over 100 people attend a Family Friday. What I love about it so much is that the kids are learning to play, but there's all different stages. So it's like birth to 12 years old, but we have like young adults with Down syndrome that come and volunteer and be like helpers. So it's so nice for the parents to be able to see like the spectrum of life. And at the same time, it's just really nice for us parents to be able to connect and say like, hey, my son is struggling with this. What has helped? We have high school volunteers. So we have different like play areas that focuses on different skill areas. So we have an area where they can work on coloring or like some fine motor, building blocks, Legos. There's an area of like dramatic play for like imagination, like salon, dollhouse, makeup, superhero, playing kitchen. And then we have like my favorite part is the gross motor, because that's what I do. But we have like a bounce house, obstacle courses, things to climb, just for kids to really get out their energy, especially on a Friday night after having like a really long work week. All you do is want your kid to go to bed. So it's really nice for parents to be able to, we provide dinner, so they don't have to cook, clean, do all that stuff. And then I would say like about once a quarter, I find a speaker to come in. And that's really important, I feel like, to further help. So we've had anyone from like potty training to special needs trusts to assistive technology to speech therapy, just, things to talk about orthotics. So I help find different speakers to help educate parents. And if they have questions, because a lot of times they don't know where to turn to, because their kid has aged out of EI and they don't necessarily do other therapies. So they're just literally wanting like tips for them at home. But it's really, really successful. And I get a lot of enjoyment out of it to see the growth of these kids over years. My children, even my two daughters, really love going. Actually, my daughter today was just asking, when are we going to have Family Friday again? Because they like playing with the other siblings. And it's for a chance for them to connect, because sometimes I feel like it's really hard for them to relate, like, hey, my brother is different. And they're like, hey, your brother is different too, or your sister is a little different too, but that's okay.
It's so inspiring, the whole story. I'm so encouraged by your perseverance in the beginning in terms of like finding a place and like facing those barriers and not letting that overwhelm you, like persevering on. It sounds like just this incredibly playful, of course, like play is what we're always talking about here, but like a very fruitful and dynamic community atmosphere that you've created. It's just so like amazing to hear like the stations that you're doing and this thinking of bringing in volunteers and then having kids that have aged out to also be volunteers, and this aspect of the parents getting support, siblings getting support. Like it's just incredibly dynamic in terms of when you bring people together and you also put play in the mix, how much can be kind of seeded out from that. It's really, really encouraging.
Yeah, my biggest thing is like saying that, individuals with disabilities are more alike than different. And everyone likes to play, and they play in their own way, and it's just a way to bring people together.
Really, really incredible. The first time I was assigned a therapy group, it was just so overwhelming that in the end, it felt like I was a glorified babysitter. Fast forward to now, where group work is one of my absolute favorite ways for supporting kids. Join me in going from blueprint to breakthrough with our signature Mastering Treatment Groups with Kids CEU accredited course. Like all of our courses at Precision CPD, you can listen to this course via podcast or watch the videos while you become a group work expert. Come join me by following the link in the description box below. Well, you've talked about how it started. We've talked about what it is now. I wanted to also, what you wrote in the application for the prize was also about how you are doing fundraising for this project. So I wanted to also just like circle on that a little bit, because I think sometimes we have ideas that these things just like come together, or an organization like completely pays for everything or like completely paves the way for you. But you're actually, apart from all of the like the speakers and making the play spaces available, you're also providing a meal. So how do you do fundraising around this?
Yeah, so it's the whole organization itself we have a couple big fundraisers. The first one is the Chicago Marathon. We have a few group of individuals who run, 26.2 miles for our organization and raise money, which is amazing. And they bring awareness that way. We just have a small group. It's definitely fizzled down in the last few years. So if you know anyone that wants to run the Chicago Marathon, Ups for Downs is always looking for people to run for them. We also have our biggest fundraiser is we have a dinner dance where families come. It's an affordable ticket, and we ask local organizations to donate items, and that's how we really kind of like raise their money. But we never ask parents. It's anyone can come to Family Friday. It does not cost anything. We don't want, financial reasons why you can't come to these events. Like I say, I'm like a negotiator. So, the YMCA gives us a really, 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 really wonderful discount. And I'm so thankful for their partnership. The dinner and things like that. We have pizza. We try to keep it pretty low costs. I do a Costco trip every month. So I probably spend on average like $250 a month. But if you think about it, it's anywhere between like 40 to 70 people that come. So I think it's a pretty like low budget cost. Yeah. And the like I said, we do run on volunteers that help support. And we're so lucky that the YMCA has the toys and like the play space. So I don't necessarily need to purchase any of those items. I do bring some stuff from home, but it's stuff that I have from home with my own kids. But yeah. So amazing. The fundraising pieces can be challenging, but we're lucky that a lot of the families do want to give back in some way. if it's like donating something or asking their company, for donations. But yeah, we try our best.
Absolutely. Do the parents play alongside the kids? Like, are there activities that are joined or are they individual? And what benefit do you see in that?
Sure. So I think it all depends on like the parents' comfort. Some parents like want that time to be able to connect with other parents, and they're like, okay, you go with the volunteers, they got you. And then there's other parents that do stay and play with their child. A lot of times they all know that I'm a pediatric physical therapist, so I get a lot of questions during that time. And then I also work in the school system, so I get a lot of IEP questions, or like, does this goal seem right? Or is this? So I do get quite a bit of those kinds of questions. But I do see parents play, like they'll ask me like, how can it's usually with walking. How can I get my child to be able to be able to work on standing, or what kind of, tabletop activity do you think they would be able to do? So things like that. But I would say about 50% of parents like to stay and to be able to reconnect and just talk to other parents about what's going on this past month. A lot of times just to vent, which I know like you can vent to others who are experiencing something very similar. Honestly, I think sometimes the parents like, I just need a break. This is like my only break I get. I know my child's safe. I know they're playing. I know they're happy, and they take advantage of the 2 hours. But I do facilitate like a lot of play. Like I said, I'll set up some like obstacle courses. I'm in the bounce house, like trying to teaching them to jump, and to play safely too. I think that is a huge thing, especially with, kids who are not developing typically and maybe have some communication breakdown or communication. They can play a little rough, and there's other kids who don't necessarily have the reflexes. Like if a kid's going to throw them a ball, like, and they don't, they can't get their hands out fast enough to reach for it. So teaching, safe play is a lot of things that I focus on sometimes during Family Friday, because they can be a little rough. Or, if a kid is climbing and they're, a little bit slower, I try to say like, we have to like take turns and wait. We practice waiting a lot, which can be definitely a difficult thing to teach any child, typically and not typically developing.
Yeah, absolutely. The families that join, are they from like a centralized kind of community or like physical area? Or do you feel like it stretches quite far out?
I would say most of them live within like a 30-minute drive of where the location is. We have had people who come, maybe not on a regular basis, that will drive like an hour, but Friday night in the Chicago area could be like 2 hours of traffic. So we do have a pretty big area, but we're pretty heavy populated. So it's nice that I don't think people have to travel that far to come. It's a sign up. So like if I do get a little frustrated when people do sign up and they don't come, because sometimes I order too much food, but it's not going to like make or break that night. So I understand like things come up, or kids get sick last minute, or they're just tired. It's Friday, it's been a long week. So it's okay if they don't come, but we've usually always had like a pretty decent crowd come. What I found, and I know my family is a little different, but because I have twins and my youngest, my daughter could go to the Park District movie event on a Friday night, but they wouldn't accept my son because he's not potty trained. So like there's things like that. Like a lot of times, like there's a lot of places out there that you're typically developing kids can go and play. Like you could, I get jealous sometimes of I see that, you're at a trampoline park and I see the parents like just sitting back, on their phones, relaxing. And here I am like trying to like make sure my son is safe and keeping others safe, like running around, making sure he's okay. So there's a piece of that where I feel like where these families that come that could connect, that they're able to have a safe and accepting place.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's very clear in what you're describing. Like the difficulty in accessing maybe some of the built-in community supports for play and family time that are already there. So having this really designed specifically for children. I know you have mainly children with Down syndrome, but it's also
Yeah,
other children as
yes, we
right?
have kids with autism. I mean, we don't discriminate who can come and who cannot come. We welcome everyone. We even have people who are just going to the YMCA and they thought, the play area was open and they never like reserved, but like, come on in if you don't mind hanging out with some kiddos that have an extra chromosome, and they don't. And they usually have like a wonderful time, and it's very eye-opening to others. To say like I said, these kids are more alike than different. They like to play the same things. They like to eat the same things, and they can cause trouble just like you guys can. So it's really nice. Yeah, we don't discriminate. We let, we're a welcoming bunch of people.
Amazing. So I think we will close off with talking about how you see this moving in. I mean, it's really well established what you have, and from what you've said, it's just continued to grow over the years. In terms of moving, like looking forward, is your primary goal just continuing to support the families and growing where it's needed, or is there something else?
Yeah, I really love doing Family Friday, but I know there's going to be a point where my son's getting older. He's 8 right now, and it usually stopped. Family Friday in the past usually stopped at 8, but I've kind of extended it till 12. But there is a really hard with kids with Down syndrome that, teenage years of finding, appropriate organizations from the play. So that's kind of going to be on my like wheelhouse of trying to figure out, okay, how can I switch? I'll still be doing Family Friday because I do love it, but to be able to find something for this age range, like the 12 to 18-year-olds, to be able to still play, even though their play might look a little different compared to your typical 12 to 18-year-olds. But how can I still get that group of individuals together? And I haven't quite come up with it yet, but I have a few more years. But I'm hoping to figure out, a play place or a play area or game nights or something for that group.
That's amazing. Absolutely. I mean, it's so important to kind of change with the age, and also for you guys to maintain this community that you've already so well established.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty nice to see. Like I have some great connections with other parents, but to see my daughters have really made some nice friendships with other siblings. So just to keep that relationship, besides like my son and his friends, but like my daughters and their friends too, because I think it's really important, the sibling aspect of having a sibling that has a disability. I think there's not a lot of support groups for them. They have a lot of questions. They have a lot of, worries about, their brother's futures and things like that too. So it's nice for them to be able to connect.
Absolutely. Well, Colleen, this has been so encouraging. I'm really inspired by all that you're doing. And I hope that we hear back after we release this from other people that are wanting to do the similar kind of things, or are moving towards doing similar kind of things, that they feel inspired to see like the longevity of what you've done and how much like those years have built into that community framework. Before we close off, if anybody that's listening wants to connect with you or find out more about what you're doing or anything like that, where would they do that?
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Colleen Dallmeyer. I live in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. My email address is Colleen, Colleen, Dallmeyer, which is D as in dog, A as in apple, L as in lion, M as in Mary, E as in elephant, Y as in yellow, E as in elephant, R as in red, PT is in Paul and Tom @gmail.com. So feel free to email me. Probably the best way to get a hold of me. Most of the times I don't even know where my phone is. I do have social media, but I don't check it as regularly. I get a lot of like phishing things, so I'm not like really as much into social media as much as just plain old email.
Right. Well, we'll have that down below, and I encourage anyone to reach out to Colleen and also just encourage her and all that she's doing. Colleen, thank you so much for being with us and for sharing this amazing project. Feeling inspired? We would love to know what you think of this podcast and would so appreciate you leaving a review down below. Hey, 5 stars doesn't hurt. All of our speakers' details can be found in the caption below, and come and check out our blog for more incredible stories of how clinicians just like you are serving their communities. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you again next week when we have a special episode where you are going to be hearing about not 1 but 3 incredible programs started by clinicians. One of them even involves international travel. I'll see you then.